Forward. Halt. Left. 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 Right. Your left. 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 Right. Down, down. Down, down.
Arkansas boy with a lifelong plan took the oath like his old man, then turned around proud and shook his hand. L.A. kid stood right behind, took a deep breath and signed on the line, while tears streamed from his mama's eyes. They hopped right up on that Greyhound bus, swapping stories. They laughed and cussed, and they talked about the girls that they loved. They made a pact, shined up their boots, got the call before it hit the news. No clue what they were about to do.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How in the world are you? This is Glenn Baker. It's Finish This Fight podcast on this Thursday, 3:30 Eastern time. We are going to kick it off here in just a moment. We just had our guest pop up backstage. Y'all, it's been a pretty crazy, amazing week. Yesterday we had Doc Pete Chambers. What a hero, American hero here in Texas. Look him up, support him. He's running for governor in this next election. And man, there's some changes that need to be made in the great state of Texas. I say that lovingly because I grew up in Oklahoma. Today's chapter of Finish This Fight podcast, I think we're on episode number 22 or 23. I don't even know. Can't keep up. The life is getting so busy. We're going to have an amazing guest, my friend Sheila Holm, author, speaker, business coach, all around amazing lady. And we're going to dive deep here in just a few minutes. Y'all, I want to bring up something real quick while we're getting ready. If you've paid any attention to what we're doing in the last little bit, Finish This Fight is just branded off into a foundation. And we just got back from New York City about a month ago. We took Joshua Holm, spelled the same. I don't know, we might have to dig into that, Sheila. Spelled the same, but we took Joshua with us. He's a 41-year-old Iraqi freedom vet from 2003 that's battled for 22 years with the wounds that he received during that war. Almost 3 years ago, one of the wounds in his neck completed, and it paralyzed him from the chest down. We were able to take him to New York and partner with a company called Wondercraft out of France that has got next generation self-balancing AI-driven technology in an exoskeleton. And they're under FDA guidelines right now, should be approved by the FDA by the end of the year. It's a prototype right now, but we're raising money for that. And we're raising money for 100 of those over the course of the next year. Y'all, there's 30,000 men and women in the VA that could qualify for these that have not received it. There's less than 100 in the last decade that have gone out. We want to change that. We got to have your help, though. Can't do it out of my pocket. I'm not a multi-millionaire. In fact, I've put over six figures out of my own money into this thing until the money's about gone. So we need your help. FinishThisFight.us is where the movie is. It's where the foundation is going to be launched on the backside. We'll be doing a walkathon starting September the 20th, a telethon September the 6th with Patriot Prayer Network. Put it on your calendar. 2 p.m. Eastern time on Patriot Prayer Network. We're going to have a telethon Saturday, September the 6th, showing how you can get involved and make a difference in somebody's life that's made a difference in yours. With that being said, let me bring on my buddy, my friend, Sheila Holm. Hey, Sheila.
It's good to be with you.
It's good to have you, girl. How are you?
Doing good. We're having plenty of rain here. I'll share it with anybody that wants to have rain day and night for a couple months.
Yeah, we've got a good thunderstorm going on outside my house right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in Georgia now?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, Sheila, you know what? You and I met. Let me make sure I've got you on all these screens here. Give me just a moment. I got you there. I got you there. I have you there. Let me take me off. Takes me just a minute because I'm producing my own stuff. So, you and I have met several times, but we met the first time, I think, down here in West Palm Beach a couple of years ago, maybe three, close to three now. When a guy named Ohio Brett Bowl was putting together a little event, I guess, at a church in West Palm Beach, Florida, and he asked you to come, and it was during the time of the Reawaken America tour. I think
Trump Durrell. I was headed to Miami, and I stopped in West Palm, and we had meetings. Had a meeting with him at Mar-a-Lago, a luncheon meeting, and with some amazing people, and that was during the day. And then the evening, I got to meet you. Dr. Judy Mikovits was there with us, and you were singing that song, and I've been sharing it all over, as you know. And so that happened in May of 23. And that's when I went straight from there down to to Miami to reawaken at Trump Durrell.
Yeah. I'll never forget that because we got up. I did my part, and I always talk to. I don't just sing, and I tell my story. And when I came off stage, I think you were coming up next, and you grabbed me and you hugged my neck and said that was so touching. I want to talk to you when we're done. And you and I have become friends ever since then, Sheila.
Oh, that song! I thought that would be your theme song for a long, long time. You've done so much since then.
Well, you know what? Every time I feel like I know what God is doing, I find out I'm wrong. He's got something else in mind here, and it's a step-by-step thing. So, Sheila, talk to me about you. Let's talk about who you are. You're on here for you. What's your background? Where are you from? What's Sheila Holm all about?
No, there's a lot to that. I don't know if you want to do the little introductory video. You know, Matt Struck, he did. He's doing some of the film for Flynn now, the shorts, the video shorts, and he did them for Trump for his campaign in 24. And so he contacted me in May, and he said, "Give me a couple of childhood photos." And so I did that, and I gave him about 5 professional photos, and in 7 days with some documents, he put that little video together. And that's kind of explains the story, because it's a long story that had me end up in Georgia and wrote 18 books in 7 years in Georgia. Now I've been here for 12 years, and now the new book that just came out is Advanced Beyond the Book series. It's called An Eternal Plan. Always trumps the human plan. It was going to be Save America. And then President Trump stole my title last year. Have not had a conversation with him about this, but I said, okay, God, can't do this. He stole my title. He put Save America in big gold letters, exactly in Times New Roman, exactly as Father had shown it to me when I got the vision from a prophet. After having a word from a prophet back in 2017, he said, "You've got to quit thinking you're living as a Job, because they keep stealing everything from you. You've got to understand that you came as a Joseph. You made an agreement before you came to do whatever it takes to save America." And so it all resonated with me, but I said, "God, you better give me a big confirmation, because I'm just one person. If you think I can save America," and I was about all this, because I hadn't even come out with the second book in the series yet. And it was in 2017.
Isn't that amazing, though, when he picks us and we're like, why?
Yeah. Well, you never know why. That's why when people say, "What are you doing with the Lord now?" I said, "I'm still in training." And they go, "Well, what does that even mean?" And I said, "You have to be flexible and fully surrendered, and then just let him do what he needs to do. Only the Father knows the end from the beginning. Only the Father knows why I'm specifically here. Only the Father knows why I have to get a ticket from this man in June, because I'm going to need a return ticket to come back to London out in October." Do you see what I mean? The things he's done with me, he has proven that if we will stand in faith and function in his storehouse, if the collapses of currencies and stock markets and all these things happen in the world, it wouldn't matter, because we can live on his currency when we live blessing other people. So it was important to get in the blessing cycle, because I had nothing. He was paying for everything, sending me everywhere on his dime. And so in this process, I've learned so much. So when he gave me that word, the big confirmation didn't come until 21, when President Trump went back to Mar-a-Lago. He changed his stationery to Save America in the same Times New Roman, in the same style, same size, everything. And God showing it to me. I didn't know that the stationery exists. God showed it to me just like he did the day of the little vision after getting that prophetic word. And he said, is that a big enough confirmation that I had the president do this? I went, does he know he did this for me? That he did this stationery. But this is my life. You've witnessed so many things in my life that just, I can't explain it.
Anybody that says God doesn't have a sense of humor doesn't actually know him. He's got the best sense of humor. I mean, he makes me laugh. Yeah. I mean, he's called little old 5'4" Glenn Baker that'll be 58 years old next month back into music.
Yeah.
Who would do that? I don't really, it's not for the faint of heart, Sheila.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart. And now to have a foundation and have filmed a movie and all those things, that makes me laugh. And then you tell me those things that he does. It's hilarious. God is hilarious.
So I don't know if you can pull up that little video. It's about 5.5 minutes.
What happened was lightning struck right before we came on, and it wiped my studio out, and I can't find it now. You texted it to me, and I think it was
you just go to hisbest.org.
Okay, and share it from there?
Yeah, it's right on the homepage of the website, and then you just expand it to full size, and it'll play right off the website.
Okay.
You're quite the producer to be able to do all these things and insert all these things. People have wanted me to share things on there, and I go, I can see where it says share, but what do you do after that? So
yeah. Okay, give me just a moment. Got it. All right, coming back to you. Let me share the screen. Let's do this. Let's come here. Sheila, I'm multi-talented for a redneck.
There you go. I'm self-taught on computers, so you can imagine what I'm like when it gets to heavy technical stuff.
Here we go.
I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. For the facts of the matter are that this nation's foes have openly boasted of acquiring through our newspapers information they would otherwise hire agents to acquire through theft, bribery, or espionage. The details of this nation's covert preparations to counter the enemy's covert operations have been available to every newspaper reader, friend and foe alike. That the size, the strength, the location, and the nature of our forces and weapons, and our plans and strategy for their use, have all been pinpointed in the press and other news media to a degree sufficient to satisfy any foreign power. The newspapers which printed these stories were loyal, patriotic, responsible, and well-meaning. Had we been engaged in open warfare, they undoubtedly would not have published such items. But in the absence of open warfare, they recognized only the tests of journalism and not the tests of national security. And my question tonight is whether additional tests should not now be adopted. That question is for you alone to answer. No public official should answer it for you. No governmental plan should impose its restraints against your will. But I would be failing in my duty to the nation in considering all of the responsibilities that we now bear and all of the means at hand to meet those responsibilities if I did not commend this problem to your attention. It is the unprecedented nature of this challenge that also gives rise to your second obligation, and that is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger. And yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. Nevertheless, every democracy recognizes the necessary restraints of national security. And the question remains whether those restraints need to be more strictly observed if we are to oppose this kind of attack as well as outright invasion.
Sheila Holm, that's an amazing video, young lady. There's a lot of information there.
Well, I was so honored. He said, it's been several years I wanted to do one with you. And I couldn't believe someone of that magnitude would be interested in doing an introductory video for me. But so many people on Reawaken started using theirs. And I was just using part of the Kennedy speech. And here's the humor in God. He said, which one of the President Trump videos did you like the most? And I said, the one where the black cars come out of that arch at Mar-a-Lago. And they come out and they head to the jet airport. And there's President Reagan is doing a speech behind. And I said, that was so powerful. Something like that would be great. We didn't have another conversation, and he was done with all this in 7 days, right? And he did the Kennedy speech, and here's God's sense of humor. April 1961 was that speech. I've been using, and you've seen me at Reawaken, I've been using the end of paragraph 23. And because of the length of this video, he started with paragraph 20, not knowing. And it took 20, 21, 22, and 23 to complete it. And it ends right at the end where we're not in infiltration anymore. We're in invasion. Do you know what I mean? And so it was so perfect. I'm not kidding. It was emotional. It was so emotional. It's like, and he captured. I mean, there I am, this little 4-year-old who God just said, don't you want to do what I want you to do? Because I said, you know what? These are really nice people, but they just don't get it. They just don't get it. I'm still saying it today. And I'm at 4, and all these children in all these different nations. He had one child come up to me and hand me a picture they had drawn. The parents didn't even know the child prepared the picture. They're 4 years old. They hand me this picture. It is my farm. Well, my parents' farm, but our family farm. It's the barn. It's the house. It's our dog. It's the glory from heaven over me. Every one of those pictures is identical, as though those kids sat in the same room and copied each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is shocking to me. And so that's been the journey for me since 4. And the day that happened, and I explained it to Mom and Dad, Dad went to town and got us little cowboy hats. That was supposed to be my cowboy hat. And when he AI'd it and had me moving, people who have known me since I was little, my cousins and everything, they're like, Sheila, that's you. He's captured your facial expressions. And then I'm 10. And I said, only my parents understood, because I thought everybody would want to know all this truth and nobody wanted to know. And
Right.
so then I got older, and then I found all this fraud and corruption, and people were so, oh, Sheila, I'm so sorry. God's allowing all this. And I said, it's not that he's allowing it. This is the world. It's not God doing this to me. And I've had to clean it
So
up.
important. I think that we should say that again, because what we as Christians, and I say it like this, are being preached at from the pulpit that if you're Christ follower, life's going to be easy. God wants the best for you. You're going to have riches and everything that you ask him for, and life. It's not true. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, Sheila, somebody made up the phrase, well, God won't give you more than you can handle. That's a crock of hooey, my friend. If you don't have more than you can handle, God probably not in on it. Because why would we need him if we could do it ourselves?
Well, the miracle is right beyond the storm. So many Americans stop in the middle of this. Oh, it's getting so bad. And they pull back and they change what they're up to. And they're not aligned with the Father. And when you're not aligned with the Father, you don't have truth in you. And so the world's able to take us down this slippery slope. That's what this whole new book is about. They were able to do this because even the church is aligned with it. Because we're doing the Constantine church. And the scripture says again and again, do not do as these Gentiles do. Do not learn what they do, and do not do what they do. You may not think you're evil, but you're of no good to me either. That means we're lukewarm, and he'd spit us out and say, I never knew you. You may thought, you did some nice things while you were there, but I never knew you, because our goal is to operate for him, to bring the truth to the people in the world, because it's always about the souls of who's here.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Well, Sheila, one of my bylaws for this podcast is to only bring people on that have been through a battle, because I think if you're following God, you're going to be in a battle of some sort, some way, some shape or form. Can we talk just for a few minutes about the battles that you've gone through, and even maybe about the time they tried to take your life? Can we do that?
We can do that, because it's been pretty continual.
Yeah.
I mean, the FBI, all they said when you saw those 3 cars in Arizona, I went to meet with the FBI when I got back, and I said, I've been erased from the system. Who would do this? And they said, we just have one question for you. The we had me concerned, but you always know there's somebody behind the wall. It's all a glass wall, right? And it was so amazing for the person, the FBI agent, to take the jacket off, put it on the chair next to him, take the gun out of the shoulder holster, lay it on the table, pointing at me. Talk about intimidation. It's like, for what purpose? You know what I mean? But I used to trust the FBI until I went through all of this, and my family trusted the FBI and didn't want to, hear all of this. But this was the question. We just want to know, how are you coming through all this and not committing suicide? Because when they do this much to people, they can't take it anymore, and you can't survive anymore, and you quit. And that's why this capturing of this video in such a short period was shocking to me, because God took me all around the world on his dime. I didn't have anything. And when he trained me, I was in England 7 times in a 12-month period. This was in, I believe, 1999. into 2000. And so as I was going through this 12-month period, every time I left with a $5 bill, I used to just have a dollar bill available, and it grew to $5. And so I took the $5 bill with me. I was in all these different nations, blessed everywhere, all these currency exchanges. And when I come home, I have a $5 bill. And I said, this is being pretty crazy, God. This is, I don't know what we're doing here, but this is pretty crazy that I have 5 when I leave and I get home and I have 5, and it just sits in the jar until we go again and I have 5, because I've only been home for all those years that I was traveling with him. I was only home to do laundry and repack and go to where he wanted me to go. And so he said, it's your training. And I said, my training for what? And he said, do you not realize I'm showing you I don't need your money to do what I need to do with you? I'm like, whoa.
What's the fish and loaves story all over again? And if people are picking up what you're putting down because they don't know you, your story goes back that you've been speaking truth for decades. And you came home from a conference. Tell me if I remember this right. You came home from a conference and found that your house had been ransacked and wiped out, and your identity was completely wiped out. You were erased from everything. Is that pretty correct?
You're correct, except it was at the time of Desert Storm. I took my first vacation in 10 years, and I came back and there was nothing in my house. You have to remember what was in the left corner of your living room, and then where did you buy it from, and go get the receipts. And it was a corporate hostile takeover. And so when you try and put all the pieces together, it's really horrible, and you only have 10 days for a claim of exemption. So I worked diligently on that to make that happen, got an attorney involved. And since I had nothing, because they kept seizing my accounts, I had to call my mom and dad from a payphone, and the attorney that I went to gave me the change to put in the payphone to call my mom and dad. That's how bad it was. And so I called him and I told him what was going on. And the humor is, I got to court and there was nothing anybody could do, because they let them come with their own van. Nobody had an inventory. They took everything from my home, and nobody's accountable because they came with their own van and took it with them. So there was no way to answer it. And that began 2.5 years of completely illegal actions until I could get the judges to court. Well, it was my hearing in 92. And then it took 7 years from the time that all of this started to in 92 to get them sentenced on felony. They were sentenced on federal RICO charges. That's racketeering. I proved that the judges were deciding cases beforehand, and they were making money allowing all these illegal activities. So if I give you this, and will you let me do this to this person? Do you know what I mean? And so I proved all of that, and then nobody would help me. They said that it was too much for a malpractice against the attorneys. And so then I said, what can I do? And they said, all you can do is go to the FBI and file this case with them. So I did that. They never protected me. So starting in 92, every few months, they've been changing my ID since 1992. And they won't stop, and they won't clean it up. And they told me I had to do it or they couldn't protect me or secure my record. As you just saw in this video, I've never been protected, never been secured record. It's all been merged the entire time. I'm the only one that never knew.
I don't know if it's been fixed now, but I know when you and I had met that you couldn't even fly because you didn't have ID and you didn't have a identification. You were still kind of unknown in the system. I was fighting for this country in Desert Storm in 1991, and our country was fighting against you. That breaks my heart.
Yeah, well, it's what is already in place, and that's why I'm shocked. I didn't know it was going to be leading to this 45 points book, because the 45 points are used to destroy a nation. The one that I was handed 2.5 years ago is specifically about America, what they had to do. You've heard the president talk about the canal. It's my research that got us the title to the canal back, because it was never anybody else's. We've been paying the bill the whole time.
Panama.
I don't know if you've seen, I sent you a PDF of the book. I don't know if you've seen it, but the pictures of President Trump's social media confirms everything that I was researching. And it started on a Tucker interview on August 23 of 23. And when Tucker was interviewing him, I had just raced across country from being at Mary Crawley's Open the Heavens in Chicago. I leave Sunday afternoon and I have to be in Vegas by Wednesday noon. I was driving at a good clip. I'm not going to, I drive a lot of hours in case the Highway Patrol's listening or any other agents. I drive at a good clip, but I start at 1 and 2 in the morning because I'd rather drive as the sun's coming up than drive into headlights at night. It's just, my dad did this all the time and it works. When you're driving 12 hours, you're somewhere already in the early afternoon. So it really helps me. So anyway, that's what I was doing. And that's when God brought this up. And he said, you think you're going to just do a book and just add some scriptures because this is all so evil. And that's not going to work. And I'm like, well, why isn't it going to work? And he said, well, why do you think this is happening? And so I'm explaining to God how things work in the world. Can you imagine? You don't realize how stupid you sound to God, but he listened. And I said, every 250 years, culture collapses, and that's kind of where we are. It's 248 years gone, so that's just kind of where we are. And he goes, is this the worst 250 years? And I had to think for a minute, now, because is this a test? And I said, well, it was the Pilgrims, and you gave me a lot about the Pilgrims, the Faith Monument, and the 4 pillars on how to raise a child in the way we should go is what they put together. They just got the Bible in English and knew they had to come here because of the calendar, and we can talk about that. I put the calendar problems we have in the upfront in the personal letter to everybody before you even get to the introduction for this book on purpose. And so what he was saying is, so you think the Pilgrims bringing their truth that was worse? And I said, yes, God, because America then turned all of those horrible Gentile celebrations, their feasts and festivals, into laws. And so people don't realize Ulysses S. Grant was the last Republic president, but he made Christmas a law in 1870. He made Ishtar Easter, calling it a resurrection day, which isn't, none of this is even true, made that a law in 1873. So they've made these laws that we're supposed to follow as Americans. And that is so wrong. And so I think that was the worst. And then he took a slight pause and I didn't hear anything. And then he said, did I not send my son with all truth? And did Constantine not put my people into what my people are doing to this day about 250 years after he was put on the cross? I pulled the car over. I'm like, oh, so what do you want me to do? The tears wouldn't stop. I said, so what do you want me to do? And he said, it's got to be a training manual. I'm like, well, why? And he said, in 50 to 100 years, it'll come right back. If we don't train the people how it happened, what to avoid, how to train up their children so they never let this happen in the future generations, all of this effort will be for naught within 100 years. Well,
that's strong truth, Sheila, because if we don't pay attention to history, we repeat it. And that's just a powerful truth. So what are you doing for that? You've got some new stuff going on. And like I said, my thing got wiped out with the lightning. That was redneck of me. I can't believe I just said that. we got lightning hit a while ago with this thunderstorm, so it's wiped out my studio. I need to go back and show the books. They're on your website. Let me pop those up.
Well, and those were in they were in the video that we just went through too.
Okay.
So the new one has that, right, Sunshine. I don't know if you can bring up the cover. I don't know if I can share and I can bring up the cover, but it's a brilliant cover. I sent a draft copy to Commander's artist who does a lot of artwork for Trump and for General Flynn. And so, I'm sorry, I should say President Trump and General Flynn. I call him Trump all the time because Trump has shown up in all my books. Every one of the book series has that it's a Trump. You have to Trump this. It's a trumpet call to the people. Everything was about Trump. God just is so funny. And so anyway, that artist made it so much better. And so now it's an eternal plan is at the top. And on the bottom is always trumps a human plan. Because when I told God I can't do the book, he came out with this brilliant, beautiful fight picture. And it's Save America in this beautiful gold lettering and it's bold. And so he stole my title and God said, I'll give you a better one. And when he gave me this one, oh my gosh, so emotional. Because then he let me put it. So right underneath this beautiful, beautiful sunrise is to save souls, save America, save the world. Guys, it's the same thing they're doing in every country. That's why the president is putting peace together all throughout the world, because the same evil plan against us has been used on every nation, ruined every nation. And what we didn't understand, all of our money that we're sending to all these nations that makes people so mad, this has been happening because the world order was moved to Charleston, South Carolina in 1871 when they started the corporation, and we have not been a separate nation ever since. We've been under control the whole time. We've never been free. We've never been independent. It's all been a lie. We just need to tell ourselves every morning, all I've heard, Lord, is lies. I go, I need you to show me the truth. So, Lord, whatever we can do today together that I can learn more truth. Thank you so much. And all I do is keep thanking him. People say, well, what do we ask him for then? And I said, nothing. And they go, what do you mean you don't ask God for anything? And I said, no, I stopped asking him because he knows what I need.
He does.
So I just need to, he knows the end from the beginning. He knows exactly what's going to bless me and help me. And look at what he has brought me through. There is nobody who can explain my life.
Sheila, when you get to that point, and I don't think very many people are there. I think God's gotten me about there. Maybe I am there. When you get to that point, you no longer worry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have anything in my bank account today. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like God doesn't know that. It's like, oh, I overlooked Glenn's bank account today. No, that's not it at all. He's got a plan. And
I stopped opening bank accounts. I didn't get credit cards. When they took my car the 7th time out of my garage, the security system, I took over for a speaker friend who had cancer. So I did all of her engagements to pay all of her cancer bills. And then when she passed, boom, all my name's on her little condo in San Diego. And so God had arranged that for me to have a place during the midst of all this trauma drama. And so there I was, and I had a security system, and it was just doing a little beep, 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 beep. They broke the garage door spring, and I didn't hear that, and took my car, and I was in a fetal position and said, just, you know what, God, I can't anymore. I can't anymore. There's nothing I can do. And I heard this soft little whisper, through me, you can do all things. And I should have just went, oh, thank you, Father, and laid down for a bit and thought. Instead, what did Sheila do? Went into Sheila mode and said, oh, yeah, what can you do with me now? I am not getting another checking account. I am not getting another credit card. I am not getting another phone. They came in through my phone, and it was a man's name, and I had a code word, and I was the only person, and my name was on the bill, clearly not a man's name. My name, Sheila, means any gal. It's not a guy's name. And so I thought, you know, I'm just not doing this anymore. Why do I keep building this? So not getting a phone for communication, not getting another car for transportation, because I've spent all this money on getting cars, not getting a credit card, not getting a checking account. And I used to be a person who had a certain amount of American Express traveler's checks. I don't know if you ever remember when that's what you had to do when you would tear it out and turn it in, where you would exchange in these foreign nations for different currency. Yep. I didn't have any of that. I didn't have credit cards for backup. And I always used to make sure there was plenty of availability in case of an emergency, that Sheila would need more cash and all of this. I had all of this going on, right? And then God had to teach me all these lessons, including he got to the point at the end of the 3.5 years. He said, Sheila, now you know I don't need your money. What I do through you is what I do through you. And that's why my initial trilogy was done in 2 months, guys. My Faith Walk book, February 15. Then Storehouse Principle. Because if you're filled with faith, learn how to function in his storehouse, blessing all those around you, because we're all here for each other, our skills, talents, and abilities. Then he said, I want you to do a workbook. I'm like, why? And he said, none of the pastors know anything about how to tithe, except they want money. They always want money. And so they know how to do tithe of money, but they don't know how to match up all of the needs in the fellowship with the people that have those skills, talents, and abilities to meet those needs. And some of them need money, and the other people that have money can share that amount of money. God has already seeded and done everything for us. We don't even communicate with the people in the fellowship. We just come in, we do a few songs, we hear a cute little message that we don't remember after we go out to lunch, and that's kind of how our day goes. And that's the beginning of what they call our new week. So what he said was, then you have to do the last book. So now it's filled with faith. It's a faith walk. Function in the Storehouse. It's God's Storehouse Principle, God's Storehouse Principle workbook. And then I thought I was done, because I was already from mid-February into the beginning of March and April. think it was the first week of April. And God said, "You're not done." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "What did you tell that woman?" I did one little interview in Macon, Georgia, because I was leaving. I was only going to be here for 3 weeks in Georgia. That's back in 2013. And what he said was, "What you told that woman is what I want you to tell my people." And I'm thinking, and this woman had the guts, a little cable network, you know what I mean? For a cable station of Cox or whatever they have in Georgia, in South Georgia. So here I am. She goes, "So tell us, Sheila, why has God placed your feet in Macon, Georgia?" And it doesn't show up on the DVD because in my head, I'm like, "Okay, God, this is your chance. You tell him why you stuck me here in Georgia. Have I made you angry at me? Have I done something wrong?" This whole conversation is going on in my head. And what comes out of my mouth is God's currency. And he said, "Because I said that, that's the title of the next book."
Uh-huh.
And because he said, "I've trained you to operate in faith and not care what looks like things around you. Keep walking in faith, keep blessing the people no matter what. And then you can operate in my currency because I'm with you in all things, because that's why all things are possible." Okay. So then in those 4 books, February 15, April 18, Good Friday, and that's hilarious in 2014 because Good Friday is when they started seizing my accounts before they even filed the case against me. God had to point out how it happened.
Sheila, here's one of the reasons that I love you. There's many, but this is one of them. We start talking about faith. And you know my story, you know what I've been through. And I tell people all the time when I get interviewed, faith is not found on the couch. It's not found in comfort. It's not. And we are a comfortable society. We are complacent. We are comfortable. We don't want to get out of our comfort zone. Faith is not found there. But you just said something that I'm going to add to my tag. Faith is not found on the couch. Faith is found in the fetal position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the truth. When we get to the point where if God doesn't, we're jacked.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to go home. I said, they've done everything how many times to me, and no matter how much I battle this and fight this, and I stay as a good steward, and it just keeps happening. I don't need to be here. If I can't make a difference, I don't need to be here. I just need to come home, But it was the same thing I was wanting to do at 4. They're really nice people, but they just don't get it. This is a waste of my time at 4. Who was I? Do you know what I mean? And then when this prophet says you made an agreement to do whatever it would take to save America, and I couldn't get anyone to listen to the truth at 4. And so I think, and it was the same thing. I had been in Georgia for 3 years, and I said, "Okay, God, if I can't do this in 3 years, then, And so he sends me to a Bible study, and the woman comes out, famous woman, been on Sid Roth and everything else. And she comes out and she goes, "Somebody needs to hear this today. It doesn't have anything to do with the message." But do you know why Jonah was sent? Or Noah? Do you know why Noah was the one that God depended upon? And I said, I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I know this whole Noah story." You know what I mean? I know how he had to build it. Nobody believed him, and he was saying the truth, and nobody wanted to believe that it was going to be the truth until the water came, and then there was no chance to. And so I know the whole Noah story. And she said, and as I was thinking all this in my mind, she said, "But you really don't know the Noah story. Do you realize that for more than 100 years, he was the only pastor? He was the only one preaching the truth. He was the only one who never changed the story. He said the same story, told him the same truth, told him exactly what was happening. More than 100 years he did that. And even his own family didn't get on the ark with him until God told him to get on and then closed it.
Yeah.
And so if his own family didn't even get on, and I'm like, so you're telling me 3 years isn't long enough? Am I going to be in Georgia for 100 years? My mind went into this whole thing. But I tell you, I quit saying, how long am I going to be in Georgia? Having no idea it was going to come to this book. And you know what's really crazy? It took this long in America for people to wake up enough to understand this book, to go, wait a minute, what else has this woman written? Because nobody cared. I'm writing books. 18 books came out in 7 years. And God, is anything going to happen here? You know what I mean? And then the interviews started 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. And then I thought the book's coming out. And then boom, what happens? The president starts with all of this stuff with Doge and everything else. And God said, you're not done with the book. So I had to get another copyright for 2025. And then he started answering me at Christmas time. So I would write and say, I think we're paying all the maintenance. And I don't know who thinks they're doing security, but I think we're paying for that too. So what does he do? He writes to me every 3 days in social media. So all these pictures are in the new book. So he comes out and I said maintenance. So he said repairs in quotes, right? So AI can't follow your communications when you submit it one way and the wording is different. Because if you keep saying I checked on and you give the same name of what you checked on for them, AI can follow your whole thread. And so anyway, so that's what he did. And he said, Merry Christmas. Did you know that down at that canal, there's soldiers from China and they're securing both sides. So he's telling me they're securing both sides. So there's your security and there's China soldiers. He said they're loyally there, but illegally there. And he said, and the repairs, and he put it in quotes, we've been paying billions a year and we have no voice about anything. So he's answering all my questions. And then he told me all the money we spent on my birthday as like a birthday gift. Now, whether he knew or not that it was my birthday, but it came out on social media. So I'm answering these, making pictures of them. And but it was so funny when the president of Panama, after Marco Rubio was there, said, you know, every square meter of Panama belongs to Panama and will remain with Panama for eternity. You know, and so the president goes, we'll see about that. 1 hour later, one of our big honking ships is going through with one of the biggest American flags on it. It says, welcome to the United States of America Canal. All these pictures are in the book. And then to fast forward on my birthday, which was January 6th, 3 days before the Carter funeral, he answers and says, you know, we paid Panama 10 million and we paid France 40 million and they didn't even finish it because they didn't finish it. We paid them 40 million. In 1903, guys, $1903, 40 million, not how many trillion today, but or billion today. And then we paid 375 million to build it. And so he gave me all of those prices and confirmed that it was 38,000 people that lost their lives. I had it as 35,000. So he corrected all of that for me. So I thought the book is done. And the guys said, is there anything else to tell him? I said, I think we have to go back and ban the church structure and live as the pilgrims lived, because they knew the truth about you don't stay in the Gregorian calendar. You go back to the Hebrew calendar. You do exactly what they came here to do. And we need to retain it and not let it disappear in a civil war 250 years later. So that's what we need to do. So what happens at the Carter funeral? Melania dresses as a pilgrim woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so touched me. So then I called our friend, you know who our friend is, our mutual friend.
Yep.
And I said, I can't believe this. And of course, Nino put us on and we covered it I covered the information on the 8th. The 9th was a funeral. And then they brought me back on about the pictures of her dressed as a pilgrim woman. What is this all about? And our friend already knew, because I'm the one, that's the one I've been telling all this stuff to and asking questions of. And so he knew this whole thing. And I went to his event in March in Vegas, and I said, the president's not really saying anything, and there's not really anything else. And he goes, okay, then just get the damn book done, you know? So the book came out on April 15. Now, here's the part in the personal letter you're going to love. If you haven't seen this, God had me go through the Gregorian calendar. And did you know we're not to put any other gods before him? Did you know every month of the year and every day of the week is the name of a god? Every single one. So when I say I'm going to meet you on Tuesday, August 28th, the only thing that's not a god or goddess is 28. And so he had me do the whole Gregorian calendar and explain that. It's also a lie because it's a Roman calendar of 10 months. So it still ends on month 10. They added the other two gods, Janus and Febru, in the beginning as January, February, instead of putting the darn things at the end and keeping it a 12-month calendar. But they wanted to compete with the Hebrew 12-month calendar to make it easier for the people to come over to their Pope Gregory calendar. That's how it's named after. And so they did all this too. So we've been naming all these gods and goddesses. So if you come to the Hebrew calendar, you know how perfect God is and how he keeps everything exact. On Adar, Adar 7, Moses came to this world. He was born. On Adar 7 is the exact same day when he walked away with Father and was no more. On Sivan 6, that's when the 10 Commandments were given to Moses on the Mount. On Sivan 6, that's when the Holy Spirit came. You see the correlations? Everything exact under the Father is, and then Nisan 14 is when they put the lamb's blood over the post for protection. On Nisan 14 is when our Lamb, our Christ, was on the cross and shed his blood. So Nisan 17 is resurrection in 2025. That's April 15. So the book tried to come out. God said, when do you want the book to come out? I said, on the most spectacular day. I think we got to resurrect everything you want us to know as God, as your truth in America and in the world. So resurrection day to me would be the best day, because that is the ultimate truth. And so it tried to come out on April 11, 12, 13, 14. There was a mess every single day. It didn't work. April 15, that book came out exactly on Nisan 17, which is Resurrection Day.
Hindsight is so wonderful, and we get to see the plan. You sound like a doggone conspiracy theorist, Sheila, and I want to get a little bit deeper into that. I need to take a quick break to do what I do, and the reason that I'm doing. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to show a little trailer. We're going to come back. Let's talk about those things. Let's talk a little bit about your military intelligence connections and some things that have been downloaded to you there. So give me just a minute. We'll be right back.
So I had a 60 millimeter mortar that landed, and so it didn't cook off. And so it technically they would consider it to be a dud, but it wasn't a dud. It had a broken propeller on it. I got pictures of it. I carry with me and stuff. It's about the size of a 1.5 liter bottle, but it has kill radius about 25 meters, 20 to 25 meters. So basically, if that round would have went off, then confirmed dead would have been 20 to 25 meters. Been 31 months since I've been able to stand on even with a brace, or being able to take one single step. So it's been 31 months to the day yesterday.
And then God leaned in and he said, you know what? You're going to do a foundation. You're going to be the one to help these boys, and some girls I'm sure, get to walking again, back on their feet.
It became so real when we physically came here, and I physically got to see face to face to that unit, and knowing that, I mean, like I said, it's pretty much like an avatar. I mean, I felt like I, plugged in and we became one. Like I was breathing with it, like, I mean, it just incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine. I can't even describe the feeling that I had. But like, it was like deep down inside of me, it's like, you know what, I felt like I can fight again. I really am able to stand again, and I'm like, I can do this.
Like, I guess the sense of pride, like to stand tall. No matter what height you are, not a jab at Glenn, but just to stand, I think is huge. You take it for granted.
Y'all, that's a real man and woman. That's a real story. That's a real need. Our men and women of the military, right or wrong, the wars that have been fought, they volunteer to go out and fight for us. I've been there and done that. I came home with all my limbs, came home with all my abilities, but not everybody has. God has called me to make some changes in that world. And we're going to be purchasing over the course of the next year and a half, 100 of those exoskeletons. They're about $150,000 each. I've got to raise $15 million. I can't do it. Can't do it without you. Can't do it without God. And I need your help. So go to finishthisfight.us. Let me throw that down real quick. Go to Finish This Fight. Now let's do this one. Let's go to givesendgo.com/finishthisfight. Givesendgo.com/finishthisfight. Every dollar is going to be helping that veteran first. He's the first of 100 There's 99 more coming up after that. And here's something that you can do. If you're not in the battle, here's something that you can do to help. God supplies all of our needs, and he supplies it a lot of times through each other. And this is the help that we need for Joshua to walk again. GiveSendGo.com/finish-this-fight. Sheila Holm, thanks for waiting for me for a few moments. That's a very important issue for me that I need to get out on a daily basis.
I'm just honored to come on after Lieutenant Colonel Pete Doc Chambers. I mean, his history, did you guys get into his history of how he went through the whole Green Beret, and it was the last week and the last couple of days, and I don't remember either broke a bone in a toe or in a foot.
Broke a leg, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he had to stop. He couldn't get done, and then goes to medical school, becomes a flight surgeon because he had to be a surgeon to help people on the battlefield. He didn't feel being a doctor was enough. You can't just give him a band-aid. You got to be able to do some bigger and better things on the battlefield. So he does that, comes back, I think it was at 42 years old, and went through Green Beret again and passed it with flying colors. And now I really hope he'll be the governor of Texas. I am so honored to know him and his dog, Joe. I don't know if you guys talked about Joe, but Joe found me as a friend. And while he was on stage with Flynn, somebody, it was one of Flynn's security guys, dropped his coffee cup that was a little styrofoam cup. And Joe grabbed it in a moment. I mean, as soon as it hit the floor, he grabbed it, carried it over to my feet because I was sitting by Pete before he got up on stage with Flynn at the Flynn movie in Texas.
Right.
And just put it on my feet. So I kind of moved my feet over to the side and pushed it a little bit with my foot, and I couldn't even get done pushing it. And Joe picked it up and put it over there again. It was so spectacular. It was like 25, 30 minutes that this dog just wanted my attention, wanted to connect with me and everything. And so when it was all over, they were all surrounded by people. So much later, I sent a text to him. I gave him a little message, as to what happened. And he said, a fabulous debrief, soldier.
Yeah.
Being with Joe.
Doc Pete is an amazing dude. I told him I really didn't like him much because he's such an overachiever. He's a Green Beret surgeon. He's a helicopter pilot now running for governor of Texas. Just an amazing man. We've got to have more patriots like that that'll step up and get out of their comfort zone. I don't think Doc's known a comfort zone in decades, though.
No. The governor put him over the National Guard, and he thought he could make a difference at the border. And then I got a quote from him for my article on how to solve the border, because it's in the Constitution. When the border becomes so crazy like this, you use your militia. Yeah. Well, they've ruined our militia because the Border Patrol is under the industrial complex. National Guard is the Army under the industrial complex. So they're all controlled. And so you can't control the border. And so militia is 18 to 55 and unto death protect that darn border. And then when it's too big, like what's happening in Texas and Arizona and California, then what you do is you bring in the multi-state militia. And the multi-state is what happened at Alamo when they tried to take over. You don't let this happen. You don't let them entrench themselves into your nation and into your state. Because when they get in those border states, they're going to be across your border. And that's why the wording in the Constitution is so critical. And that's what President Trump did on June 14. I don't know if we have time to go into that today, but that's what he did. He kept saying, I'm bringing it all to the regular military. And the regular military is all are now at the point of being our militia in America. And the blessed part about it, he brought in the DC, and he made sure he said, these are the DC Coast Guard. This is the DC Marines. These are the DC Army soldiers. He brought them all in as the DC soldiers, lined them all up, and did what? Had him take the oath to our Constitution of the Republic. Yeah. And that is what is so profound about this president. He's doing so much and people want him to do more. And it's like, what can he squeeze into another 24-hour period?
Oh, no, he works like a maniac. Yeah, he works like a maniac.
We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, that's where we are. If we could all be like a Doc Chambers, if we could all be like a Glenn Baker, started out with a song and now it's going to be a film and it's a foundation. It's you know what I mean? And you were just wanting to get, was it your sergeant or drill instructor?
Drill sergeant, yeah. Yeah,
And
and
you
I
just
did
wanted
get
to
him.
get him, and you just wanted to do this music video. I remember this whole process, and I've watched this whole evolution of what the Father has done. It's just been amazing to watch. I'm just honored to be a witness to your life.
Sister, I love you for that, and I appreciate it. This is not what I had planned. I thought I was just writing a song, but here's the key. Here's the key. I want you to listen. Look at my eyes, y'all. You got to just be willing to say yes. That's all God is looking for, is someone that'll say, here am I, send me, and just say yes. Doc Pete Chambers is one of those. And he and I talked about the Texas Guard, the Texas State Militia yesterday. I've also become friends with a lot of folks in that world. I want to introduce you to a gentleman one of these days, Sheila, named Dan Abbott, who is the commander of a constitutional militia in Lynchburg, Virginia. And he was the number 2 NCO in the U.S. last year for the National Guard. They just discharged him under other than honorable conditions because he's a commander of a constitutional militia in Virginia. It's a war going on that we cannot see, and it's happening all around us.
Well, it's because the militia, it was not accepted. When they went to a corporation, they changed everything. And the majority of our states don't have a constitution. I don't know if Virginia does, because we, the people, have to vote to ratify the state constitutions. And they took us point number 43, right before the canal, taking us onto the world courts. Here's the joke. Take them over before they're self-governing. We didn't know what the governing was supposed to be when we started this whole nation. And we've never been free from Britain. And then to turn us into a corporation registered in England, just like the state of Israel is, that's not a free piece of land either. And so when you look at what they have done, and because they knew what they could get away with, because we didn't know, we came to have freedom and liberty. That was the whole purpose of this land. To operate with those who Father sent to uninhabited lands, which are the tribes of Israel, which are the Native American Indians. And here we are. Here we are. And how can this is a wonderful thing to think about and consider. Do you know that those tribes became the tribes of Israel? Jacob became Israel in 1906 BC, guys. That's more than 500 years before Moses in 1400 BC. And we keep thinking he then, when he was 80, took all these people and got them into this land, and then it was called Israel. And it's because of Jacob becoming Israel. That happened 500 years before Moses. Do you see what I mean? And so they grew so big, they were taken captive by the king of Assyria in 721 BC. And then in 612, God removed them because they had become a Gentile living nation. And Father said, this is not for my people. And he took his people that were still with him out of those tribes and sent them to uninhabited lands. And everybody thinks they just came to America. That's not true. They went everywhere to uninhabited lands. There wasn't anybody anywhere else. Yeah. There were only 70 nations when Christ was born, and that was at 0, guys. And so we have 600 years in between before you get there, and you have the whole Moses story after this. I mean, all of this that we thought we knew truth, we don't know truth.
Yeah. Well, but Sheila, you're a truth teller, and we've about run out of time. I want to have you on again. Go to hisbest.org, y'all. Hisbest.org. Pick up her new book. Pick up the last, 20 books, whatever you've written. If you really want to find out some stuff that you didn't know, we didn't even touch on some of the stuff that just intrigued me. When I first met you, Sheila, you were talking about the military being locked up in the mountain, and you'd gotten that from some intel sources. And there's some things that you know that probably have gotten your tail end in trouble with some people a time or two. Maybe we'll come back and talk about that. Anything you would like to share as we end this show?
Well, yeah, we talked about the shadow government, and people wanted to know what the heck was going on. And our military figured out a way, because we did not know. They have their own communication system. So they're communicating off over here. And so we're doing our thing in the world, and they're off over here making this whole plan against us. And so when they showed all of this to the president, he was considering what to do. And the man in charge of Cheyenne Mountain, it's in Colorado, around Colorado Springs, I believe, between Colorado Springs and Denver. I didn't realize until I went to Promise Keepers, Denver's a lot higher up in the state than probably an hour and a half from driving time above Colorado Springs. So Cheyenne Mountain is right near Colorado Springs. And so the guy in charge is like, sir, it's my wedding anniversary. And within a short period of time, I'm going to have to tell my wife or I'm going to be in trouble. I don't know. Are we locking it up? Are we closing it up? Are we locking it down? And the president considered all options to see what to do next. And it was time to shut it down. And so they shut it down. And that guy didn't get to take his wife out to the anniversary. And they're still locked in there.
Yeah. That's a whole other rabbit hole. And we need to chase that down. I
don't have other stuff. I thought, don't leave him hanging. Just give him that stuff. So that's still going on. I don't know what's happening in there, but how blessed are we to see what's happening right now? What just happened today? Dan Scavino gave out a 34-second of the 3 steps. And so if you guys follow me on Twitter, it's just at Sheila Holm. And look at the 34, then look at the 37. The 34 had ACDCs, and the third point was start your engines. Then the 37-second came out right after that. And on the 37-second, these are cue posts. And so I put these out completely top to bottom. So feel free to share this with your people, Glenn. And then at the same time, the president heard from some key people that we know. I'm not going to name them today because they were in special meetings last night. And the president gave a very stern truth release today. And that's also on my Twitter account. And it's about Tina Peters. And you better do it. And you better do it right now. And you better free her, or there's going to be major consequences. And so the president, he's taken a stand in that area. He's warned them a couple of times. And this time he's done after what he heard was going on last night in the meetings they had. Because I was on an interview with a panel, and the guy that was making all of this happen wasn't able to be with us. And so I'll share all that with you, Glenn. Just been powerful days. But guys, we're in such a key point. And when you see the 37-second video, here's the flight going out, and they're dropping 9 on one side and 2 on the other. So the plane drops 4. Then it drops 5 in quick succession. So that's 9. You got to watch it closely because it happens quick. And then he drops 2 on the other side. 9 plus 2 is what? 11. What does 11 mean? War. 9. And then the 2, 1, 1, 9, 1, 1, guys. And so is that when, and because we're building up to completing this, and there are people that committed war crimes. They tried to take over America. America wasn't going to exist as of the 2020 election. That's what people still have not grasped. But we've taken our time. We're doing everything for the rule of law. We're doing everything so it can never fall apart, and they can run away to another place or escape what the consequences are. It's all being done per the rule of law. And that's why it's taking time. And it doesn't matter how much time it takes, because we got one chance to clean this up and do it right. And we're going to do it right.
Let's do it right, Sheila Holm. Stay backstage for me. Let's do an after action review. And I appreciate you being on today. Let's get you back real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Sheila Holm. Go to hisbest.org. Support this lady's fight. She has battled for decades for the integrity of the United States, for God and country. Go support her, hisbest.org. Now, come back next Tuesday. I don't even know who I've got coming on, but we're going to have a great show. Dang it, I just went blank. Next Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for Finish This Fight podcast. Go to finishthisfight.us. Purchase your copy of the movie, Diary of a Pissed Off American Soldier. 100% of that goes to help Joshua Holm get back on his feet with that exoskeleton. Be watching for our telethon on Patriot Prayer Network on September the 6th, and then the launch of the fundraiser, Walk for a Hero, Joshua's Journey. We will be releasing Finish This Fight, Joshua's Journey, our new documentary this week. It's only 19 minutes long. It's going to tell the entire story. So come back next Tuesday, 3:30, y'all. Uncle Glenn loves you, and I'll see you on the other side.
Forward, halt, left, 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 right, your left, 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 right. Down, 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 down.
Arkansas boy with a lifelong plan took the oath like his old man, then turned around proud and shook his hand. L.A. kid stood right behind, took a deep breath and signed on the line, while tears streamed from his mama's eyes. They hopped right up on that Greyhound bus, swapping stories. They laughed and cussed, and they talked about the girls that they loved. They made a pact, shined up their boots, got the call before it hit the news. No clue what they were about to do.